So I'll go ahead and state the obvious. You are most recognized as the former band leader of The Tonight Show with Jay Leno. But that's not why you're here. Tell us why you are in the Hoosier State.
To play with a wonderful jazz band, and they have a nice concert planned, and we had some really great rehearsals, and it's good to kind of meet the musicians a little bit. You know, this is one thing that's wonderful about rehearsing. I love to rehearse because you don't just learn the music, you meet people and you kind of get a feel for other people, and which makes the music. It's funny how that kind of gives some context to the music, because you start, you know, say, wow, who's playing that great trumpet part in the back? And then, you know, or you just start to talk, and then when you're playing music comes communication with the other musicians, and then you communicate with the audience later, but you have to communicate with each other first. So when you're practicing and rehearsing, you get all of that, and plus you can play with people that are from totally different generations than you are, and so then you start, it's kind of funny, the things that you notice and the things that they notice. So all of that's nice. So I love to travel around and do things like this.
You taught a master class at IPFW, which is something that you do a lot. In 2010, I want to be sure I get this right, you were appointed Artistic Director of the Thelonious Monk Institute's National Jazz in the Classroom program. What does that job entail?
Going to different schools around the country and, you know, interfacing with the music department. I'd like to do it with everybody, music department, the art department, you know, if they have a choir, if they have, you know, a theater program, everything. I just see it as trying to get all the arts together to appreciate music, appreciate, you know, artistry of any kind. So I would go in and talk to students and hang out with them, kind of the same thing I'm doing here in a lot of ways, and just encourage everything to go further, encourage the program so more money can be raised to keep the program moving on. And also you learn a lot from hanging out with students and seeing what they like, seeing the things they don't like, seeing, you know, and they turn you on to a lot of things. And one of the things that I learned a lot is each generation brings some different music to it. And I feel like the music that I'm playing now, if I grew up in a generation that, you know, the first thing I heard was hip hop music or rap music, the music that I'm playing now would be different. So I always say, man, you guys are lucky you have an extra layer of this to it. And the people that come up now that like country music, now they're kind of hearing a lot of country music with a lot of pop in it, which the previous generation maybe didn't do. So it gives you a lot of extended context to work with. So it seems like every generation has a little bit more to work with because it's layered on top of this, on top of that. So I kind of realize that more when I do things with Monk Institute and go to different schools, and it could be from high schools, some college programs. But once again, you just get to understand that it just keeps moving and keeps moving. And it's just a lot of fun because it's music and you're meeting people yet again. So it's a wonderful thing to be. I'm happy to do that. You know?
Let's talk a little bit about your formative years. Music is such a huge part of who you are. Was it always? Did you grow up in a musical household?
Yeah. From day one, maybe before day one. It was because my mother has a master's degree in music education, so she played lots of classical music, taught piano lessons, a lot of gospel music. We had to go, and you know, when we were kids, my mom would go to rehearse during the week and rehearse with the various choirs at the church, and we went with her. So we were in church 3 days a week, falling asleep because we were tired, and my mom's playing the Hammond organ and I'm laying on her lap trying to sleep while she's hitting the pedals and banging me in the head with her knee. So rehearsals and hearing my mother teach piano all the time is just normal to me. It's just, I miss it if I don't hear it. If somebody's not playing something, it feels like home. And even to this day, wherever I live, if there's not a piano in the house, I feel like, it doesn't quite feel like like home yet. So I grew up in a musical family, so that helps a lot because when you're first starting to play, you're really annoying everybody because you sound terrible. I mean, I started playing violin, and it's terrible. You can become a great violinist, but when you start, you are just, it's such a hard instrument to get to the next level. At least it was for me. But my mom and my dad, they're so used to music that they kind of suffered through it, the whole thing. And of course, we started having bands at the house and playing in the basement. And they just acted like that was normal. So, you know, we just went along with it. So it was easy for me to get involved in music. I almost didn't have a choice. It was just all around. And I figured I wasn't going to play third base for the Philadelphia Phillies. So I gave up on that dream. I guess what was left was music.
So you grew up in Philadelphia.
Oh, yeah.
And when did you pick up the guitar?
I started playing at 12. I was playing violin up to that point. Even past that, I was playing violin and guitar, which is one of the regrettable things, is that I should have kept playing violin.
Really?
I shouldn't have stopped just because I was playing guitar. But playing guitar, you know, you're in neighborhood bands and everything, you're having fun.
Right.
And violin was so in a different way of learning, you know, and I never thought of using violin to play different music out of the classical idiom, which of course a lot of people do now. So that's one of the things I regret is when I started playing guitar at 12, I started cutting back on violin until finally I just quit playing violin. But I should have kept playing violin and probably should be a piano player. That instrument comes more natural to me than, certainly more than violin and even more than guitar.
So
Yeah.
at what point did you realize that you were going to make music your career?
I never did. I never thought of anything else really, except I would like to be a writer if I wasn't playing music. But that was always in the back of my head. But it was always music, and I never really thought about it in a career aspect. It was just, I just played music, and I never thought of really doing anything else. But I didn't have an idea what a career was or anything, because you know, musicians kind of live in a little bubble.
It's true.
You know, and we don't know the basic things of life, how to pump gas. We're
Details.
Yeah, you know, musicians, you know, say, wow, that, you know, how much does the bus cost? You know, we don't know, you know, we stay in our own little bubble in our own little world for a long time. And when I was a kid, I played with a lot of musicians that were older than me, so they drove me around everywhere, you know, and I didn't learn to drive till I was 26 years old. I didn't know how to pump gas because I never had to do it. A lot of things like that, I just never, because music takes you out of your context, it takes you somewhere else.
So Reality Check probably didn't come much in the way of the Jay Leno show. That's
No, that
probably
was
an alternate reality, huh?
Yeah, definitely. I would say so. It really was a different thing.
How did that job come to be?
They just asked me to come to play in the
Just that
band.
easy.
You know, somebody asked me to join the band. I joined the band. And a real close friend of mine I met in college named Branford Marcellus, he put a band together, and we were on the road, and he said, Kev, man, you want to come to LA and play in the Tonight Show band with me? I said, okay. So eventually that happened. And so then when I was there for 2 years, and he goes, oh man, I'm splitting. And Jay said, hey Kev, you want to be the band leader? And I said, well, yeah, let's give it a shot. And we had a great time. So.
It looked like you guys had a great time. Did you have a good relationship with Jay?
Yeah, we still do. You know,
That's
we're
great.
friends, so it's ongoing. That's where we met, but we still talk to each other fairly often, and we still work together sometimes. He knows my family knows him. You know, we just became buddies after all that, and it started just because we spent so much time together working. And he, you know, his career, of course, he was on the road all the time, and I came up being on the road, so we kind of related to that really easily. So we got on really well.
You make it sound like a career as a musician is so easy, but
Oh, do I? I make it sound like
it does. I mean, it sounds, but I know that
Right.
it's not. So what advice do you give to young musicians who want to make a life on the road, or doing what you do?
Really work hard to be as good a musician, love the music that you play, and have fun doing it. Just keep it simple. Keep it on a real innocent level. If you love playing drums, just keep playing the drums, and you get better and better at it, and have fun and play with other people that love doing what they're doing. And maybe the neighbor across the street, is tired of hearing your band playing, but they listen and they say, hey, you know what? There's this thing that's happening, and they need a band for it. And before you know it, now you're playing your first gig. It could be a fashion show. It could be this. It could be, you never know where it's going to come from. You never know where your first gig is coming from or your last gig is coming from. I had no idea about playing on television or anything like that. It came just out of the blue. Just like your first gig will come out of the blue when somebody says, oh, my friend just opened up a new club and they need a band to play on Sunday afternoons. And, and it's your dad's friend. So, oh yeah, my son plays drums and now you have a gig. And it just comes from, mostly we hear stories about people that already made it, that are already doing it as a living. But we all started as, lost. All we know is that we like doing what we did, and it was fun.
So as your career has evolved, how has your music evolved? Your taste in music, your style, how has that journey evolved?
It's just gotten broader. I appreciate more and more different kinds of music, really. Everything from bluegrass to country music, blues, jazz, love classical music, and it's just opening up more and more and more. And I wish I could play 5 different instruments, to see it from different perspectives. I mean, I would be a terrible drummer, so I would never get a job. I would say, who's the drummer? Fire the drummer. That would be me. I wish I could do it, and I wish I could sing. Because I love, singers. So, but I can't sing. I know that. But I wish I could. But it's just, more wonderful things that you find in music. You get to travel. You get to do this. You get to do a lot of things like that. So, and that changes you. When you go to Russia and then a week later they're at war with Ukraine, that changes you. When you go to communist countries that are no longer communists, and then you play for these audiences and you feel that they want more out of you. They want something that they can, connect with, because they're in a different place in their entire country. So people there are feeling something a little bit more intense, and they want musicians that are going to give you that extra thing, that, something that, dig in. We want to feel that you're on the same page as we are. And that teaches you something. And then you walk away with a little something different, and everywhere you go, your bowl gets a little bit bigger, So the music changes you, but it allows you to travel more. And then that changes you as well. And then you go to a hospital and play for people and realize that it's not how well you play, it's how you connect with people that really matters. And it doesn't matter what kind of music it is, really. It's if you make an honest connection with people. I think music really is just connective tissue, really. All kinds of music. I mean, all kinds of music. The ocean, wind through the trees, it touches everybody. When you hear rain, it does something to you. It's just a natural thing. Or when you see snow falling but you don't hear it. It's weird to see movement and not hear a sound. All of that is something, So all of it just connects you with something either inside of you or connects you with something outside of you. So music really is there. It's not about how well you sing and dance, and that's the commercial side of it, how well you play guitar or something. That does something else. Very valuable, and you need it. But the real side of it is that it was here before you were. You know, before the first instrument was made, there was music. It was the wind, it was this. And we come from that. We get the idea that we created music or we make it up or something like that. And it's not really. We're just letting out sounds that were here before us, and we, you know, develop these instruments, and then we recreate the sounds in different ways. But music isn't in this category. It's not something on your iPod. It's not a playlist. It's not, you know, that's not really the essence of it. It comes from somewhere else. If you listen to your heartbeat at night, if you put your head on your pillow and you get real quiet, you can hear your heart beating. That's music, that's a rhythm, that's something, but you can feel how vital it is. You know, it's something else. We don't know what it is, we know that it exists and it was always here. You know, in our society, it has commercial aspects to it, but in its essence, I don't think it has anything to do with the way we relate to it socially. So, or, you know, I hear people say, you know, well, how, you know, my music, and it's not yours. I think there's something weird about actually being paid for playing music or for writing songs. I would rather people didn't have to pay for any music. In our social structure, you have to have it, but I'd much rather play free concerts. I'd love to play outside, where the elements and the music become one thing, because you hear that, you feel that, especially after a thunderstorm or something like that. Some of the greatest music is hearing waves crash into a rock on the coast of Hawaii or something like that, and you hear the orchestration in it, that it's rolling up the coast and there's a big, you know, breakwater right here and the wave crashes against it, and there's no timpani cymbal crash that's going to equal that. But that's what we're recreating, though we have some great composers that write it in and say, oh, when this composer wrote that and this orchestra played it, it just sounded great. Nothing is going to sound as great as that water building up, you know, and crashing into this rock that's been there for 1 million years. And this water that just hit, you know, it's a whole different thing. But when we look at it as a concert or as a profession or something like that, that's so it can fit into what we made. But all of us as people have to fit into what was made before we got here, what made us. So the deeper part of music, I don't even want to call it deeper, that's so cliche, but getting out of the context of it being a commercial element, which it is not. I would much rather play for free. When you play for free, everybody comes. You go to a concert in a park, there's no admission. You go to a festival, there's no money. You get people from all walks of life, people that never heard jazz music in their life. They go, oh, it's free, I'm gonna go do it. You know, if you could go to school and you didn't have to pay for it, oh, it's free, well, I'm gonna try and do that. But when you have to pay for it, now you have to isolate things and say, well, I want to do this or I want to do that. So you kind of become myopic in the way that you choose things based on how it fits into society and your place in society. But if it was all free, you might do a lot of things and you might be great at a lot of things that you never thought of before. So freedom in a lot of ways just gives you so many more options and opportunities, and it makes you maybe able to become great at something or feel better about yourself just because you have opportunities that you would never think of. So I don't like the idea of sounds being bought any more than I like seeds being owned by a company. I don't like music being owned by a company. I don't like that people have to pay to come see me play music. I mean, do we pay to hear birds sing? No, we wouldn't think of it. We think that's ridiculous because birds have no use for money. But since we have use for money, we think it's okay to pay. But in the essence of it, there's nothing to pay for. It's just sound. I know I can't survive without it in a lot of ways, but really I don't like the idea of having to pay for music. But it's a part of society and it's necessary, so we put it in the context that it is.
So that being the case, when you do go into the studio and make an album, are you trying to make a statement with your music?
No. I try to do that. So I'm going to make this record and it's going to be this way and it's going to be that way. I wish I could make a statement about something musically, but I don't think that comes in a formal kind of way, like I'm going to make a decision and do this. I think it comes from a combination of things that happen in society. If there are riots going on for certain reasons, if people are protesting a war, if they're protesting a certain type of brutality or a something that people are fighting against. You know, oh, we don't want abortion. We want abortion. We don't want this. We want that. And it's affecting people's lifestyles. It's affecting whether you can get an education or not because it costs too much, or something like that. Or why don't these people have the right to do that? Or why does my kid have to go to war again? Why can't they get health care? Why can't they do this? Why veterans of war can't come back and be taken care of? And it boils to a point where people say, we have to do something. We just can't keep living like this. And then it turns into somebody writes a protest song. We don't want to go to Vietnam. We don't want to do this. We don't want to do that. But I think you have to have a connection with what's happening in your society in order for that to happen, and you have to have an awareness in yourself that you want to have a voice about that. It's not just music, it's not just entertainment, it's part of the social structure that you live in, and it's your way to make a contribution to that by raising an awareness because of your artistry, because of you can use your music here and you can use it there, and it's not just to buy a new house or to buy a new car or to do something like that. So I would love to make a statement with music, a statement about society, but all these things have to kind of come together at the same time. So one thing happens, somebody says, well, I'm not giving up my seat on the bus. And somebody says, well, and I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to go to war. I'm not going to, a prominent person that's going to lose everything. Or just a person getting off work and says, I'm tired, I'm not getting out of this seat. I'm sitting right here. And all of these other things happen after that. To me, that's an artist. She didn't play any music. Rosa Parks didn't play anything, but the fact she didn't get off the bus was artistry. It doesn't mean that she knows what a dominant 7 chord is, or I studied and I went to school and I got a degree in this and blah, blah, and I'm an artist, I can play this backwards and forwards and I have technique and all that. That's not really artistry, that's just like a commercial artistry. But artistry is how you live your life in conjunction with what's happening in society, and you have an opportunity to do something about it, and your voice is heard, and everybody else is brimming to say the same thing, and a movement starts. That's artistry. Everything else is personal artistry, it's commercial artistry. It's not that it's a bad thing at all, I'm not saying that, but when you say, is it making a statement, a lot of things have to come together for it all to mean something in context with society.
That is the best description of art I've ever heard.
Really?
Yeah, thank you for that.
Oh.
Wow. Okay, last question, and this is my favorite one.
Uh-oh.
Okay. If you could go back in time and tell this guy anything,
right,
what would you tell him?
Those look like two different people.
They kind of do, a little bit. But as far as I know, it's the same guy.
Oh my God. Okay, the one on the left, I would say, don't get too discouraged when you lose your hair. It's all right, it's gonna be cool, don't worry about it, And the person, I guess that's me, the person on the right, don't have a crush on the painter that's painting you, and just put your shirt on and just ask her out to dinner. You don't have to go through all that to get a date with, just, calm down, fella. So
calm down, fella.
Yeah, that would be the caption of it, calm down, And this one is like, enjoy your hair while you have it, because it's not gonna be around forever.
Life lessons with Kevin Eubanks.
That's it.
Okay.
Oh my God.
Wow. Thank you so much. You are delightful, and I really appreciate spending time with you today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's very cool. Thanks for having me.
Calm down, fella.
Really. Just a little something. Okay. All right. Cool, man.
The Our Foundation, Martin Tierney, and the Community Foundation of Greater Fort Wayne. Proud supporters of Arts in Focus on PBS 39.